Hello everyone. How many times have you felt the need of attaining satisfaction, the want of contentment or fulfillment? What we are going to read today, a poem written by Thomas Hardy, also talks about how he achieved this satisfaction and where he went to achieve this. Let's start with a new poem today, When I Set for Lyonnesse, written by Thomas Hardy. The underlying idea to write this poem was that the poet wanted to attain fulfillment or satisfaction in life. He wanted to attain the happiness which was priceless. So he went to a mythical land. Mythical means an imaginary land called Lyonnesse. And he was an architect who was working as an apprentice. Apprentice is a person who gets trained, but while getting trained, he's also paid little amount. So one day he goes to a place called Lyonnesse, where there is a small church which was being restored or renovated. And his job was to supervise that restoration or renovation. Now this poem, which Thomas Hardy has written, is divided in 3 stanzas. In the first, he explains how he felt while he was going towards Lyonnesse. How was his journey? In the second, he explains his worries or doubts because he doesn't know what is going to happen there and nobody could predict it. And in the third, he explains that when he came back, there was a change in him. There was a glow on his face, there was magic in his eyes. Nobody knew what had happened, but yes, there was a fulfillment. There was a satisfaction, there was joy, there was contentment inside his heart. So in today's session, I'm going to read out the poem to you, then explain it line by line along with the meanings of the new words. But before we start with all this, as usual, let's know something about the poet Thomas Hardy. Thomas Hardy was born on 2nd June 1840 in Dorset, England. He was an English novelist and poet and also a short story writer. His notable books are Far from the Madding Crowd, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, The Mayor of Casterbridge, and his collected poems Jude the Obscure. His famous poems are Neutral Tones, The Darkling Thrush, The Voice, The Convergence of the Twain, The Man He Killed, and more. He died on 11 January 1928 in Dorchester, England. When I set out for Lyonnesse, 100 miles away, the Rhine was on the spray, and starlight lit my lonesomeness. When I set out for Lyonnesse, 100 miles away. What would become at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there? No prophet durst declare, nor did the wisest wizard guess. What would become at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there? When I returned from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes, all marked with mute surprise, my radiance rare and fathomless, when I returned from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes. Before we start reading the poem, let me read the introduction that's given for it. As a young apprentice architect, apprentice is a person who gets trained, but at the time of training, he is also paid a little amount. An architect is a person who designs or plans the construction of a building. So as a young apprentice architect, British poet and novelist Thomas Hardy once visited a parish to supervise the restoration. Parish is a small church belonging to a small community, and restoration means renovation. Restoration of a church. On his return from the parish, people noticed two things about him: a new glow in his eyes and a crumpled piece of paper. Crumpled means crushed, sticking out of his coat pocket. That paper, it is recorded in one of his biographies, contained the draft of a poem. You are going to read that very poem inspired by a visit to a place which the poet calls Lyonnesse. Now, Lyonnesse is a mythical birthplace of Sir Tristram in England. It is believed to have been submerged by the sea. In this poem, it is used as an imaginary place. And here, the poet suggests that after visiting that place, he received spiritual benefit. Now, let me explain this poem line by line to you. When I set out for Lyonnesse, 100 miles away, the poet here tells that he has started for a place called Lyonnesse, and when he set out, he started for that place, Lyonnesse, it was 100 miles away. The rime was on the spray, and starlight lit my lonesomeness. Now these two lines suggest that it was winter season. Rime means frost or snow, and spray means the spread of the leaves and branches of the tree. This line says, since it was winter season, there was snow all spread over the leaves and the branches of the tree. And the word starlight suggests that he started with his journey at night time. But the stars in the sky had lit up his dark path and his lonesomeness. Lonesomeness means loneliness. When I set out for Lyonnesse, 100 miles away. Now the first two lines are repeated, which suggests the same thing, that when he started for the place Lyonnesse, that place was about 100 miles away from his home. What would becans at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there? The word becans means happen or something about to happen. Sojourn means stay. So in these two lines, the poet is really anxious and he doesn't know that what would happen at Lyonnesse till the time he will stay there. No prophet durst declare, nor did the wisest wizard guess. And he says that no prophet is a person who predicts future. Durst means dare, and wizards are intelligent people. So the poet here says that neither a prophet who can predict the future can dare to declare what is going to happen, nor even the wisest or the most intelligent person can guess what is going to happen when he will stay at Lyonnesse. What would becans at Lyonnesse while I should sojourn there? Again, the first two lines are repeated and the poet really is nervous. He is anxious and he is thinking that what would happen at Lyonnesse while he would stay there. When I return from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes, the poet expresses that he has returned from Lyonnesse, but there is a contrast in his personality. While going, he was really unhappy, but now when he has returned, there is magic in his eyes. There is something new, something very mystical in his eyes. All marked with mute surprise, my radiance rare and fathomless. So everybody who saw the poet, they were marked, they were all mute. Mute means silent and surmise means thoughts or guesses. So all the people who looked at him were quiet, but they were lost in thoughts. They were trying to guess what had happened with the poet because there was radiance. Radiance means glow on his face, which was very rare, and fathomless. Fathomless means so deep that the depth cannot be measured. In other words, when the poet came back from Lyonnesse, there was magic in his eyes and everyone was thinking or guessing the reason behind that magic, and the glow on his face, which was so rare, which could not be found otherwise, and also immeasurable, that is, could not be measured. Everything was so deep. When I returned from Lyonnesse with magic in my eyes. The first two lines are repeated here again to highlight the fact that when the poet returned from Lyonnesse, there was magic in his eyes. There was a change in his personality and in the way he looked and felt. Now that I have read and explained the poem to you, let me completely summarize this poem so that you understand it better. The poet Thomas Hardy, who is also an architect, but a trainee architect, is going on an apprenticeship to a place called Lyonnesse. There in Lyonnesse, there's a parish. A parish is a small church belonging to a swan community, which needs to be restored or renovated. So to supervise this job, this task, the poet was nominated, and so he started on his journey to Lyonnesse. The first tells us about his journey, that when he set out for Lyonnesse, it was about 100 miles away. It was winter season and the night was very cold, and he felt really lonely while he was traveling. But the sky was lit with stars, and this starlit sky made his journey a little tolerable. In the second, he wonders what would happen to him when he will reach Lyonnesse, because no wizard, no magician, no prophet could actually tell or predict the future, what is going to happen with him there. The poet is expressing his anxiety about his stay in Lyonnesse. The third and the last tells us a change in the attitude of the poet. It's a complete transformation. Because when he went, he was nervous, he was lonely, he was unhappy. But when he came back, he was happy, he was contented, fulfilled and joyous. What was the reason of his joy? What was the reason of this satisfaction that he gained? Nobody could answer that. Everybody looked at him and they noticed two things in him. The first was there was a glow in his eyes and there was radiance on his face. And they also saw that there was a paper which was crumbled and kept in his pocket. This paper had a rough draft of the poem which we just read. So at the end of this poem, Thomas Hardy expresses that he had attained the actual happiness, the actual joy or contentment in life, which is absolutely priceless. With this, we finish today's session. And in my next session, we are going to discuss the poetic devices, the rhyme scheme, and the question answers based on this poem. So see you in my next session. Till then, take good care of yourself, be happy and be safe. Thank you.